Here to serve. Go ahead, Rob.
Quarterback like Salter, I know they rotated him out once, but you face a lot of really good dual threat quarterbacks, including last week. What is he unique in that regard, or how would you describe his?
Yeah, I think, you're right. I mean, he fits that mold of, obviously very skilled in terms of his ability to maneuver through the pocket as a pocket passer. And then I think also, like you said, I mean, his ability in the quarterback run game, his ability to get outside the pocket and make plays. I think all those things show up. And, again, you're talking about a guy that's got a lot of experience, not just at Colorado. And so, really impressed when, you watch him play, his confidence and what's going on. Obviously, he's got great skill players around him, and so it fits the mold of exactly what we've seen here now the last 6 weeks.
And I think I said to Taylor, it feels like a hallmark of your team has been making the plays in the moments, even if maybe it's not an A game overall.
Yeah.
And when that didn't happen on Saturday, how do you take stock of that, and how do you, because whatever you want to consider momentum, whether it's real or not, you've had a lot of momentum in that regard, and when it's arrested, how do you fix it?
Well, I think the game probably even showed us that, right? We probably the first time all season where for a quarter and a half, boy, we didn't have it. And I think the character of our football team to regain it and give ourselves a chance to win the football game, those things from a coach is really impressive. We had guys step up and make some really critical plays. We didn't make enough of them, and when we had the momentum back, the opportunity to finish it, we just didn't do it. And I think that's a great point, Rob. I mean, we had some great opportunity and gave ourselves some great opportunity in a really tough environment to put ourselves right back where we needed to be and didn't make the plays. And I think anytime you don't make the plays, what do? I mean, I think you go back to work, and it's kind of what we talked about on Sunday of, proud of who we are, proud of how we responded, yet not proud of maybe some of the moments that lagged in the game. And, those are things we all own. And the nice thing is it happened in all three phases of the game. It wasn't just, one side of the ball or this side of the ball. Really, we had lags in all three phases, and you got to go back to work. And the great thing is it wasn't an effort deal. It wasn't an attitude deal. And it wasn't even a know not what to do deal. It was just an execution deal that we've got to be better. And so there's only one way to attack that, and that's work. And so luckily we got the kind of group of kids that know how to do that.
Matt, so much of what we see from the outside about Colorado surrounds the celebrity status of Deion.
Mm-hmm.
Are there things about the way he coaches his team that get overlooked because of that?
Oh, I think so. I think what he's done is impressive. I mean, you're talking about a program that was, obviously it's got an incredible past to it. It's a program that's won a national championship, and yet was really on tough times. And I think what he has given that program is life. I mean, it's a team that won 9 games a year ago. You watch this young team, and boy, they're up 14-0 on the road at TCU last week, and it's almost like they ran out of time in the football game. They were right there to win the game in the fourth quarter. And so I think a group of kids that obviously have great talent. I think he's brought in tremendous talent. I think a group of kids that play really hard. They're really skilled. I think right now just a young team that's growing forward, and you kind of see that on the videotape. But I think hope, belief, and conviction, I think you see that in this Colorado program right now, and that's a tribute to him and his staff.
After getting a chance to review the film, what do you diagnose the problems on defense from Saturday?
Yeah, I think we diagnosed them in the second half. So the nice thing is those got diagnosed right in front of your eyes. So just you're a hair off. You're talking about 3rd and 3, 3rd and 10 in the first half of the game. You're a hair off on those plays, and you make a couple of those plays and you get them right. I think some of our run fits were just a hair off, and the great thing is you look at the second half of that football game and you were a hair on, and that's what it looks like, and it's kind of what we have to be, 11 guys doing their job. And I think that was probably again another great reward to watch. And we didn't play great defense in the first half. I don't think that's nobody's saying we did, but I think the ability to make the adjustments and the ability to get ourselves corrected in game was really impressive.
What is Carson's status, and how nice of it was it for Abu to have a season-high game like that with Carson out?
Yeah, I think that's probably start on Abu and talk about Carson, I think the great thing about having, I think a lot of talent in our backfield is we feel like there's great consistency. And obviously Abu is, on an equal platform is what you feel like with Carson in terms of, the type of player he is and what he can bring to our football team. And I thought he got better as the game went on, which was really awesome to see. From Carson's standpoint, probably questionable right now is still the status that's probably right to say. But he's a tough kid, really trying to get himself back, and we'll see if he's, where he is by Wednesday, Thursday, and see if he's available for us. But again, I feel really confident that room, not just Abu. There's a lot of guys that have kind of been waiting on their opportunity as well.
How was Rocco feeling in the last 48 hours?
Yeah, Rocco, I know feeling probably ticked, and I think a little bit of soreness on Sunday, Monday, but, was back out on the practice field today. So, again, you're talking about the character of that human and what he's built on and his toughness. I think it shows up. But, for him to be back on the practice field today is pretty impressive. So, yeah, he's done a great job and got himself a lot of recovery here the last 48 hours.
What is your guys' reaction when he's in the med tent 2 games in a row? Obviously a lot of inexperience, and you've talked repeatedly about how important he is for your offense. Just how do you manage trying to keep him healthy while not taking away what makes him effective?
Yeah, and that's tough. I think we're trying to manage it quite honestly, really the whole game, even going into it with kind of where we didn't know where he was last week. But, he comes back in out of the 10 and he runs in for a 5-yard touchdown, And it's like, that's who the kid is. You can't take away what he is. And he's a competitor. He's an elite competitor, and he's really tough. And so, I think what we always have to do is be mindful of physically where is he and making sure that we're giving him everything he needs to be his best on Saturday. And you don't want to put somebody in that could get himself hurt worse. And I think we always have to be smart on that. But, I think our trainers, our doctors do a great job of that. But what Rocco is I think he's really indicative of kind of, I think our team has taken his character. He's tough, he's resilient, and he's going to keep playing. And I really appreciate that. And so it is a fine balance sometimes, because I think it's one of those things you want to be mindful of, man, the guy's dinged up. But, sometimes when you watch that guy pull the ball down and go run, and he's going to compete until there's no time left on the clock, and that's what makes him really special.
Coach, you've had 2 successful trips to Utah the last 2 years. What have you learned about coaching in the altitude that you can take into this year?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is we've tried not to make a big deal about it, to be honest with you. I think the effects that we found are really post that game that can be a real challenge is being in that altitude. I think all the simple things of hydration and how you kind of prep are all still very real, and we got to do a great job of that. At least weather-wise, it looks a little bit different than, what it has been the last couple of weeks. So I think that's a benefit to our football team. But, I think the biggest thing is how you recover post that game from the altitude is maybe the biggest thing. But we'll have to be ready for it. I know it'll be a little bit of a factor for sure.
At the end of the second quarter, you guys went for 2 points after scoring the touchdown, but then coming out of the third quarter, you decided to kick a PAT, which I think put you guys down 9. I was wondering if you could just explain to me your process on those decisions in those 2 moments.
Yeah, well, I think the first one was, we were chasing points, I felt like if we could get to 15, it was a 2-score game, right? We were at 16, I think, at that point. And, we scored so fast in the first half, or in the third quarter coming out, that I didn't feel like we needed to chase. At that point, I felt like, man, if we got 7 and could win the game with a field goal, we were still in a really great position. If it was probably a little bit later in the football game, I probably would have considered going for 2. But I just felt like, man, there was so much time left in the game that, we had a lot of really good momentum, and I didn't want to put us behind the sticks. I felt like, man, the point where we could win the game on a field goal at that point was still right in front of us.
As you evaluated the tape from Saturday, the cornerback play with Trey and with Q, how encouraging was that, and how does that maybe help the rest of the defense where you don't feel maybe you've got to cheat over and help those guys?
Well, we didn't cheat over and help them Saturday. They put them on an island all game, and those guys stood up and made some great plays. And so, again, I think that's injuries are going to happen. It stinks. I think the biggest thing we lost with, Coop and Tez is their leadership, and yet those guys have been unbelievable in our building, and, both have gotten surgery and both are back around helping those guys. But from a talent standpoint, we feel really confident in what those guys can do. I thought, what you saw Saturday, I mean, those guys made play after play after play Saturday, and we're great in the moment against a great quarterback and some really skilled receivers. And again, we'll get tested again there this week, just because you're playing another really good quarterback with another group of really talented receivers. But I think from our end of it, it certainly allows us to have confidence. I think that group will only grow and continue to get better. But I don't feel like it made us feel any other way, other than we kind of felt like those guys were pretty good players waiting for their opportunity. And that's the fun thing about football, is when you get your shot, are you going to be ready for your moment? And I think we've continued to show that we've got guys, when they get their opportunity, they're ready to play. And I thought Quentin did a great job of that Saturday for sure.
And then the safeties last week that trended towards out, Cam Smith, Kaijan, how are they looking this week?
Yeah, I think both of them have a chance to be available, which obviously both guys are huge for our football team. So, both guys were at least on the practice field today. So, again, I would say the word is questionable in whatever area we are right now in that area. But we would all hope that we could get those guys back, because I think those guys certainly help us immensely and, give us a little bit of depth and rotational depth within the defense.
What is Chase Sewell going to have to do to remain focused and in the moment, coming back in his old place?
Yeah, I think we talked about that a little bit, just today. I mean, he's worked so hard on himself, and I think anytime you get into those environments where there's a storyline outside our walls, sometimes you can get lost in that. Coaches can get lost in it, players can get lost in it. And the reality of it for Chase is you just got to go play football. I mean, what you've seen in the last 2 weeks is that guy just continue to really come on. I mean, he's made significant strides as a football player. I think he's playing with a lot of confidence right now. And I think putting any time, effort, and energy worrying about, whatever happened in his past or whatever relationship there is in the past, what a mistake, because that's the past. This is the present, and the present is, his ability to grow and take another huge step for our football team and for him. So I think those are the big things. You got to worry about the here and now. I think anytime things just go so fast. I think you start worrying about things that you can't control or things that have happened in the past. I think you ruin the present. And so I think Chase is really smart. He's a young man that I think is really on a mission for himself and for this team to keep growing forward.
Matt, when you think about Abu, you think 2 years ago in that Kansas State game where he burst onto the scene on a national game, and whether it's fair or not, the expectations for him go sky high. Yeah. How have you seen him kind of battle those expectations, and when it goes up and down, and the way he's kind of persevered and gotten to a place where he's more confident and comfortable within a role in the team?
Yeah, I think great question. I think for Abu, and I always have to remind everybody, Abu played cornerback. He didn't even hardly play tailback until his senior year of high school football. And so I still think when you watch Abu, even at that point, he was a true freshman, incredible talent and incredible skill. Putting all the tools together to not just be a great runner, but be a complete football player, those things are growing. And what I love about Abu is, he's been an incredible teammate maybe when it hasn't gone well. He's really went to work on his craft, his process daily of what it takes, from nutrition to strength and conditioning to the playbook to all the things that great players do. And I really have seen, really over the last couple of weeks, there's just this maturity about Abu that you would hope a junior in your program has. And he's done a great job of that. And that's why there was no shock to me how he played Saturday. I think he's been waiting for kind of his moment. And I thought it was a really impressive game for him. And I think he'll only continue to grow forward. But again, I think he went to work on his process and understood, this is a journey. That was a one-game moment, and you're right. There's a lot thrown on him. And that happens in our sport. You have one of those one-game moments, and next thing you know, there's the expectations go sky high. But I think he has sky-high expectations for himself, and he's really worked to put a great process around those expectations.
Conrarty, are you guys looking at the other side of the bye for him to be able to get back? Or
certainly are.
Is there a time frame?
Yeah, I think that's probably really right, Travis. I mean, I think we're kind of, hoping that, the time has been good. I do know, he has started kicking again, which is, I think those things are at least positive, that's trending in the right direction. Will not be available again this week. So, that is real, but, we hope with, you get a bye and maybe the opportunity that he's healthy enough coming out of it that you have a chance to get him back. So, yeah, we're excited for him, and he's doing a great job in terms of his process to get himself back.
That's all we got.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Have a great day. Thanks, you.